The Silent Stalkers of the Deep. March 16, 1943. 0200 hours. North Atlantic, 500 miles west of Ireland. The icy black waves crash against the conning tower of U-432 as it breaks the surface like a predator emerging from the abyss. Salt spray stings the faces of the watch crew, their breath fogging in the sub-zero wind that howls across the deck. Kapitänleutnant Heinz Otto Schultz wipes the binoculars with a gloved hand, scanning the horizon for the faint silhouettes of Allied merchant ships. The engine's low hum vibrates through the hull, a constant reminder that below, in the cramped, sweat-soaked confines, 40 men hold their breath, waiting for the order to dive or strike. You can almost feel the tension coiling in the control room, where the hydrophone operator presses his headphones tighter, listening for the distant thrum of propellers. Contact, bearing 045 degrees, he whispers, his voice cutting through the dim red light that preserves their night vision. Schultz nods, his face etched with the confidence of a Wolfpack leader. This is the Kriegsmarine's domain, the Battle of the Atlantic, where U-boats like his have sunk over 3,000 Allied vessels since the war began, starving Britain of supplies and bringing the island nation to its knees. Grand Admiral Karl Donitz's strategy is simple: swarm the convoys, overwhelm the escorts, and vanish into the depths. Tonight, convoy HX-229 looms ahead, fat with oil tankers and cargo ships, guarded by a handful of destroyers that Schultz knows he can outmaneuver. The sub slips back beneath the waves, periscope slicing the surface like a shark's fin. Inside, the air grows thick with the smell of diesel, unwashed bodies, and anticipation. Lieutenant Zur C. Fritz Meyer, the first watch officer, checks the torpedo tubes, 4 forward, ready with G7E electric torpedoes, silent killers that leave no bubble trail. The crew moves with practiced efficiency, boots scraping on the grated floor, whispers passing orders down the line. They've done this before. Surfaced attacks under moonlight, the thrill of watching enemy ships erupt in flames before the escorts can react. Schultz, a veteran with 100,000 tons of shipping to his name, feels the familiar rush. Torpedo loss, he commands, and the boat shudders as the first fish streaks toward its target. Explosions rock the night above, muffled booms echoing through the hull. Cheers erupt in the torpedo room, another hit, another victory for the fatherland. But as the U-boat circles for a second run, the hydrophone picks up something new, the high-pitched ping of ASDIC sonar, probing the darkness like fingers reaching for them. The escorts are closing in, HMS Mansfield and her sisters, their screws churning the water into froth. Depth charges rumble in the distance, but Schultz smirks. Traditional ash cans, those clumsy barrels that detonate at preset depths, give plenty of time to evade. Twist the rudder, change depth, and slip away. It's a game they've mastered. Deeper they go, to 150 meters, the pressure creaking the hull like an old wooden ship. The men brace, sweat beating on foreheads, but fear is tempered by experience. Otto Kretschmer, the ace of aces on U-99, has taught them well through whispered radio briefings: stay calm, stay silent. The charges explode above, shockwaves jolting the boat, but they're off target. Laughter ripples through the crew as they level out. Another convoy mauled, another night survived. But as the sonar fades, a new sound emerges, faint at first, then insistent. Not the usual plop of depth charges, but a rapid-fire barrage, like hail on a tin roof. What is that? The question hangs unspoken in the air, eyes darting in the dim light. The boat trembles, not from a distant blast, but something closer, more precise. And then, impact, the first taste of the nightmare. The hull rings like a church bell struck by a sledgehammer. Not one explosion, but dozens, sharp, cracking blasts all around the boat, closer than any depth charge has a right to be. Lights flicker, men stagger, grabbing pipes and valves as U-432 lurches violently. Kapitänleutnant Schultz's head snaps toward the sound-powered phone. What the hell was that? He barks, voice steady but eyes wide. In the control room, the plainsman fights the hydroplanes, trying to hold depth. Water sprays from a ruptured gland on the aft trim pump. The chief engineer, Obermaschinist Karl Weber, shouts over the chaos, no major damage yet, but pressure hull is groaning, Herr Kalu. The air turns sour with fear these veterans have rarely tasted. Up on the bridge of HMS Loosestrife, Lieutenant Commander Herbert Pitcairn leans over the voice pipe. Hedgehog fired, 24 bombs away. The Spigot mortar's 6 rows of projectiles arc into the night sky like deadly fireworks, then plunge ahead of the destroyer in a perfect elliptical pattern. No more rolling barrels off the stern. No more giving the U-boat time to twist away. These bombs only explode on contact. If they miss, they sink harmlessly. If they hit, back in the depths, another salvo slams home. 2 direct hits. The forward torpedo room erupts in a roar of tearing metal and rushing seawater. Torpedoman Hans Becker is hurled against the reloading racks, ribs cracking as AG-7E torpedo shifts and pins another crewman's leg. Alarms shriek, flooding forward. Blow tanks. Schultz orders, voice cutting through the panic like a knife. The boat surges upward, men clinging to anything bolted down. You can feel the cold sweat on their palms, taste the metallic tang of terror as green seawater gushes through ruptured seams. Schultz knows the pattern now. This isn't random. The Tommies have something new, something that lands right on top of you before you even hear it coming. No warning pattern of splashes. No time to crash dive or comb the tracks. Just sudden, surgical death. On the surface, Pitcairn watches the sea boil where U-432 breaks through, blown upward by her own tanks. Searchlights stab the darkness, pinning the battered submarine in harsh white beams. The 4-inch gun crew is already loading. She's surfacing. Open fire. The first shell screams across the water. Inside U-432, Schultz makes the only call left. All hands on deck. Abandoned ship. The conning tower hatch clangs open, and freezing Atlantic air rushes in mixed with cordite and oil. Men scramble up the ladder, slipping on blood and diesel, emerging into the blinding lights and tracer fire. Schultz is last, pausing only to grab the war diary before climbing into the inferno above. As the crew leaps into the churning sea, clinging to Carly floats, they watch their boat take shell after shell. Within minutes, U-432 rolls onto her side and plunges bow first into the abyss, taking secrets, hopes, and 17 men with her. But this is only the beginning. Word races through the surviving wolf packs on encrypted channels. The enemy has a new weapon. No splash, no evasion window, just silent death from above. And the man who will feel its bite hardest is waiting for his own patrol. Because Otto Kretschmer, the tonnage king himself, is already at sea aboard U-99. The tonnage king meets the Hedgehog. May 17, 1943, 0430 hours. Mid-Atlantic, 400 miles south of Greenland. The sea is a steel gray mirror under a low, bruised sky. U-99 glides on the surface, diesels thrumming softly as she recharges batteries after a long submerged patrol. Kapitanleutnant Otto Kretschmer stands on the bridge, collar turned up against the biting wind, scanning the empty horizon with the calm of a man who has sunk nearly 300,000 tons of Allied shipping. His crew calls him Silent Otto, not because he is quiet, but because his attacks are no wasted torpedoes, no unnecessary radio chatter, just precise, lethal strikes and silent withdrawal. Below, the atmosphere is almost relaxed. The cook has managed real coffee, a rare luxury. Men off watch sprawl on bunks, trading stories of home. They know the rumors, strange new weapons, U-boats lost without a distress call, but Kretschmer has dismissed them. The Tommies always come up with gadgets. Nothing has ever truly stopped the Wolfpacks before. Then the lookout spots it, smoke on the northern horizon. Convoy ONS-5, 43 merchant ships wallowing through heavy seas, escorted by B Group, 7 destroyers and corvettes under Commander Peter Breton aboard HMS Duncan. Kretschmer's eyes narrow. 43 targets. A feast. He signals the pack. U-99, U-258, U-954, and 6 others. Shadow the convoy, wait for night, then strike from all sides. Classic Donitz doctrine. Night falls black and moonless. Storm winds whip the sea into whitecaps. Perfect cover. Kretschmer dives to periscope depth, threads through the escort screen like a ghost. At 2,217 hours, he fires a spread of 4 torpedoes. 2 hits. A tanker erupts in a towering orange fireball that lights the storm clouds from beneath. Cheers echo through U-99's control room. But the escorts react faster than expected. HMS Vedette, a new V-class destroyer fitted with the latest Type 271 centimetric radar, picks up U-99's fleeting surface run. Her captain, Lieutenant Commander Richard Angel, knows exactly what to do. Action stations. Target bearing 180, range 2,800 yards. Prepare Hedgehog. Kretschmer, still at the periscope, sees the destroyer turning hard toward him. He orders crash dive to 200 meters. The boat tilts sharply, men sliding along the deck plates as ballast tanks flood. Depth gauges spin. They've done this 100 times. The first pattern of traditional depth charges will come soon, loud, predictable, survivable. But nothing falls astern. Instead, silence. Dead, oppressive silence. Then, a rapid, staccato hammering against the pressure hull. 24 contact fuse bombs detonate in a perfect circle around U-99. One scores a direct hit just forward of the conning tower. The explosion is deafening, intimate. The entire boat whips like a cracked whip. Lights shatter. Glass gauges explode. Men scream as they're flung into bulkheads. Seawater jets in through split seams. The forward battery compartment floods, releasing choking chlorine gas. Kretschmer, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead, shouts orders that barely carry over the chaos. Blow all tanks. Emergency surface. The battered U-99 rockets upward, breaking the surface in a cascade of white water. Searchlights pin her instantly. Vedette and HMS Sunflower close at 30 knots, guns blazing. Shells tear through the conning tower. Kretschmer staggers onto the bridge, sees his boat dying around him, and gives the final command, abandon ship. As he leaps into the freezing sea, the most successful U-boat ace of the war watches his command slide under for the last time. 40 men follow him into the water. Only 5, including Kretschmer himself, will be pulled aboard the British ships alive. In Berlin, the news hits BDU headquarters like a depth charge of its own. In a single week of May 1943, the Allies sink 41 U-boats, more than Germany can build in months. The Wolfpack era is bleeding out, and the weapon that delivered the killing blow is no longer a rumor. It has a name, the weapon that changed everything. Hedgehog. That single word now echoes through the concrete corridors of Befehlshaber der U-boot headquarters in Berlin like a death knell. Developed in secret by the British Admiralty's Department of Miscellaneous Weapon Development, this unassuming spigot mortar looks almost comical on paper. 24 65-pound bombs launched in a circular pattern 200 yards ahead of an escort ship. No elaborate guns, no massive barrels, just 6 rows of 4 stubby tubes mounted on the foredeck. But its genius is brutal simplicity. Traditional depth charges roll off the stern and explode at preset depths, giving a skilled U-boat commander like Kretschmer precious minutes to turn, dive, or dodge. Hedgehog bombs, by contrast, fly forward, land in an oval ahead of the attacker, and only detonate on direct contact with a submarine's hull. Misses sink harmlessly to the bottom. Hits tear steel like tin. You can picture the scene in the Admiralty's testing grounds at Fairlie, Scotland, in late 1941. Royal Navy officers watching the first live trial as the bombs arc gracefully into the water around a submerged target hulk. One direct hit, a fountain of white water. The hulk's pressure hull ripped open as if by a giant can opener. Even the engineers stand silent for a moment, realizing they've just rewritten the rules of anti-submarine warfare. By early 1942, the first Hedgehogs are fitted to escort ships. Quietly, no fanfare, crews train in Scottish locks, learning to maneuver so the destroyer's bow points straight at the fleeting ASDIC contact. The weapon's accuracy climbs with every drill. By the time convoy battles reach their climax in 1943, over 100 Royal Navy escorts carry it, often paired with the new Centimetric Type 271 radar that can spot a periscope at 5 miles through rain and fog. Now, in the blood-soaked month of May 1943, the statistics hit Grand Admiral Karl Donitz's desk like hammer blows. 41 U-boats lost. Entire wolfpacks erased in nights of fire and steel. Crews that left Lorient or Saint Nazaire with confident waves to the bands on the quay simply vanish. No final radio message, no wreckage, just empty ocean and grieving families. Donitz paces his office, maps of the Atlantic spread before him like a butcher's chart. He knows the mathematics are merciless. Germany is launching new boats, Type 7s and larger Type 9s, but not fast enough. Allied shipyards are outbuilding him 3-1. And now the escorts aren't just defending convoys anymore. They're hunting, aggressively, relentlessly. In the captured British prisoner of war camps, surviving U-boat men whisper about the new devilry. It doesn't give you a chance, one lieutenant tells his interrogator. One moment you're lining up the perfect shot. The next, the world explodes around you. The Kriegsmarine rushes countermeasures. Deeper diving boats, acoustic decoys, better hydrophones. But every week brings fresh disaster. The convoy routes remain unbroken. Grain, oil, and tanks pour into Britain. American troops flood across the Atlantic untouched. In his headquarters at Courneval, France, Donitz stares out at the gray sea and finally writes the order he never thought he'd give: suspend wolfpack operations in the North Atlantic. Effective immediately, the hunter has become the hunted. And beneath the waves, the remnants of the once proud U-boat arm now listen in dread for the next faint sonar ping, knowing that if it locks on, there will be no warning splashes. Only the sudden, shattering embrace of the Hedgehog. From dominance to desperation, the collapse of the wolfpacks. Summer 1943, the Atlantic has become a graveyard. In the French bases at Lorient, Brest, and La Pallice, the once celebratory atmosphere is gone. No more brass bands playing on the quays as U-boats slip out to sea. No more confident boasts from young commanders about matching the tonnage. Scores of Priem, Schepke, or Kretschmer. Now, crews depart in near silence, faces pale, eyes avoiding the families waving from the docks. They know the numbers. They've seen the empty berths where sister boats should have returned. Grand Admiral Donitz demands answers. He orders new equipment. Schnorchel breathing masts to allow submerged battery charging, improved Matox radar detectors, acoustic torpedoes designed to home in on escort propellers. But every innovation arrives too late, in too few numbers, or is countered almost immediately by Allied intelligence. Because the real killer isn't just the Hedgehog, it's the perfect storm that accompanies it. Long-range B-24 Liberators from Iceland and Newfoundland now patrol the Black Pit, the mid-Atlantic air gap once safe for surfacing U-boats. Escort carriers like USS Bogue bring Grumman Avengers and Wildcats right into the convoy lanes, launching strikes the moment a submarine is sighted. Centimetric radar blinds the Matox receivers. U-boat crews no longer get even a warning beep before the aircraft or ships are upon them. And always, the Hedgehog waits on the bows of destroyers like HMS Vedette, HMS Loosestrife, and the new American destroyer escorts rolling off the ways in Boston and Philadelphia. You can imagine the scene inside a Type VIIC boat in late 1943, the hydrophone operator suddenly stiffens. Fast screws, bearing 120. He closing rapidly. The commander orders a crash dive, heart pounding as the depth gauge spins past 100 meters, 150, 180. The crew braces in silence, listening for the familiar plop 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 of depth charges rolling off stern racks. But there is only silence. Then the staccato thunder of contact explosions, perfectly placed, tearing into the saddle tanks, crumpling the pressure hull. Lights out, flooding, screams, the desperate blow of tanks to surface, only to meet guns and ramming prows. By the end of 1943, Germany has lost 237 U-boats, more than in the entire first 3 years of war combined. Over 20,000 young submariners rest on the seabed. Donitz shifts tactics again and again. Individual patrols, deeper waters, attacks on coastal shipping. Nothing works. The convoys sail through untouched. Britain's lifeline is secure. American troops and materiel flood into England for the coming invasion. In May 1944, as Allied armies prepare to storm Normandy, the U-boat arm is reduced to a battered remnant. New boats still launch, the revolutionary Type 21 electro boats that promise to restore the balance, but they come too late. The Atlantic has been won. The weapon that started the reversal was never the biggest or the loudest. Just 24 small bombs on a simple mortar, exploding only when they kissed steel. From the height of their power in 1942, when Churchill admitted the U-boat peril was his greatest fear, to the shattered force of 1944-45, the Kriegsmarine's gray wolves learned a brutal truth. The ocean no longer belonged to the hunters. It belonged to the hunted.